Skirk Squad. Assemble. It is finally time. Skirk is here. What is Skirk? What is Skirk? The Escoffier slave. That's right, it's a trap. This is the Escoffier post-release video. Gotcha. Let's talk about Escoffier. All right, how do we gear Escoffier? Golden Troop, Vonius Lance, or her 5-star weapon, and that's it. All right, cool. It's Escoffier, mission accomplished. Player and cryo teams. When we last left off on Genshin Impact, Escoffier saved cryo forever. Or at least the next couple months. Now, we're here. They're getting ready to release the new cryo DPS, who is presumably going to be the Escoffier partner. She is essentially unable to be played in any teams not with Escoffier. If you're not familiar, Skirk has the Nouvellette passive, except instead of different elements, it requires you to have only cryo and hydro teammates. If you do not have only cryo and hydro teammates, you are losing a lot of damage on Skirk, and you're losing a lot of damage on your teams because you're not getting the Escoffier red shred. So the teams are really straightforward, okay? It is Escoffier, Furina, Skirk, and a flex. That flex is mostly going to be either Yelan or Shenhe, depending on how the beta shakes out and how they adjust. Skirk? Oh, if you do not have Escoffier or Skirk, you go from 99 team DPS to 78. The best team option seemingly is Furina, Yelan, Shilinen. Before we go into the details for Skirk, let's talk about the Razor language for Skirk. All right, Skirk is Risley. Skirk is like, what if Risley was cryo? The field time is the same, essentially, except instead of the HP drain and heal gimmick, she has her Void Rifts. What are Void Rifts? When cryo and hydro teammates do damage, they place Void Rifts on the field. Skirk absorbs these on hold elemental skill cast, charged attack, and those alternate elemental burst. By picking up Void Rifts, she gains Serpentine stacks, which is her central, well, which is essentially just E-skill duration. How do you play Skirk? It's really simple. You press E, then you press Q, then you do 2 N5s, then you charge attack, then you do 2 more N5s. That is how we currently think you are meant to play Skirk. Alternatively, we've also looked at, and by we I mean I've also looked at N3 dash, which should be similar to how Arlecchino's N3 dash works, where there's a ton you can cancel, and the N4 animation is quite long. You should be able to save quite a bit of time. That's more theoretical until we have exact hit counts, but I've got my eye on it. It's a note, but for now we're working with 4 N5s and 1 charge attack. Like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna try to do more Zenless content. More Genshin content is coming. Did you know most of you watching are not currently subscribed? You should subscribe. So let's talk about the downside for this. If you do look at team DPS, you're gonna see that it might be lower than you expect. That's just because Skirk takes a ton of field time. Her state lasts for 13 seconds. So essentially Skirk is taking up to 15 seconds of field time after hit lag. It's quite long and it extends rotations quite a bit. It's just like Risley. I've been in this place before. So yes, that is why people are disappointed with some on-paper DPS for Skirk. If you look at shorter rotation times, it ends up being very good. We'll see. We've also looked at a ton of gearing options for the characters in the Skirk teams. So here's the thing. Skirk gives elemental skill +1 when all party members are hydro and cryo, which is great for Furina, it's great for Escoffier, it's great for Shenhe, it's great for most party members. The problem is, Skirk generates 4 particles, which is technically worse than Risley. I don't really know how else to say it. That's really not great. It's really not great, and it doesn't get funneled to the characters who need it. So overwhelmingly, these teams need Fav characters. Let's look at triple. Let's start by looking at triple cryo here. So with no Favs in the team, with Shenhe, Escoffier, Farina, Skirk, Escoffier needs 180 ER. Shenhe needs 240, and Farina needs 266. And that's just not gonna happen. So let's give a Fav to Farina. Suddenly Escoffier needs 160. And Shenhe needs 212. Or 218. Now let's give a Fav to Shenhe. Oh wait, Escoffier still needs 150. Well, we might as well give a Fav to Escoffier too. That's basically the gist of how Skirk teams work right now. They're all Fav all the time. It's nothing but Fav. We're using triple Fav for a character that doesn't use energy. Pog! Is this a problem? No, actually. Fav is a great weapon. It's great for Shenhe, it's great on Farina, it's great on Escoffier. This is genuinely not a serious problem, but if you were expecting to not run an ER Sands on your Escoffier, I got some bad news for you. If you do play Fav Yelan, Escoffier actually needs less ER than she does with Shenhe, which is pretty funny. That is assuming you know how to do 2 Yelanis per rotation, which you should. Since we've been talking about gearing in the Skirk teams, let's talk about gearing on Skirk. Skirk has a ton of weapon options because she's a sword character. You can use Calamity of Eshu as a 4-star option, except these teams won't have shields, so it's a little questionable. If you wanted to do Sea Lolly, you can get Scroll, but it's kind of a waste. Then it's not exactly better than other options. In fact, it's actually worse. But the other option is Finale of the Deep. Finale of the Deep is a great 4-star weapon. The other thing we need to talk about with Skirk's gearing is artifact sets. Skirk has her own set. It is available right now. Because we currently cannot use her burst and normal attacks at the same time, if you use her normal attacks, essentially her set is worse than Mershasai Hunter if your weapon is not a crit rate main stat. Meaning, unless you are forced to use the Skirk set, Mershasai Hunter is better by about 3%. Which is good news if you are using a 4-star weapon like Finale of the Deep. It's also good news if you're going to be using Mist Splitter. Side tangent about Mist Splitter, I have loose confirmation that 3-stack does currently work with how Mist Splitter is implemented to check for below 100%. If you have 0 to avoid dividing by 0, it sets the value to 0, which technically is not 100% burst. So there's that. If you are using the Skirk set, PJC is perfectly good, so is her on Kapaku Futsu. Skirk has 2 goblet options essentially at all times. She could either be using Cryo or Attack Goblet, and the results may vary depending on what you have and what you have available. So keep that in mind. More goblet options, more good, more things to farm. Additionally, if you're looking at crit rate circlets, you can also look at attack circlets. Just like Neuvillette, Skirk can run alternative main stat as well there. I do have some current multi-target configs available for Little Bro Optimizer. You can check them out on the sheet in the description of the video or pinned in the comments. So yeah, that's kind of where Skirk is right now. Shenhe and Yelan are pretty directly comparable, and it's all going to depend on rotation time, essentially. I personally see Yelan ending up being much better. Maybe not much, but I personally see Yelan ending up better. We'll see what happens with it. I do want to throw out how I think they will adjust Skirk. I think they'll adjust Skirk in a pretty obvious, maybe not obvious way. I think they'll adjust Skirk in a way that could be really beneficial. During Wristly Beta, I spent a ton of time optimizing rotations for Hold E plus Tap E Shenhe rotations. They're really cool. There should be a bunch of clips on stream of me, there should be a bunch of clips on screen of me doing them. So if they adjust Skirk's Hold E to have a 4-second or lower cooldown, these rotations would be possible for Skirk, and they would be very worth doing. They'd be a direct buff for any team that can fit them in, which would be most of them. Because Skirk's field time is so long, you kind of have to look at these extended rotations anyway. And if you can just squeeze a Skirk burst in there, it'd be great. It'd be a direct buff. I'd love to see them do it. I don't know if they will, but I'd love to see it. So I do have this here as a hypothetical calc. Also worth noting, all these calcs are without considering cryo resonance, because cryo resonance is hilariously inconsistent since the enemies can't be frozen. It's almost never up in most teams. Cool resonance. Really wish it was just unconditional get 15 crit rate. They should probably fix that. Just making that change alone is plus 8% team DPS on all of these, which is another reason why these are currently lower than you might be expecting. Yes, Skirk is the best cryo DPS. Yes, Skirk is substantially better than Ayaka, Risley, and Ganyu. Could Skirk be better? I don't think she needs a buff. I'd like to see the split uptime rotations open up a bit by letting us use the burst and the basic attacks. By letting us use the burst and normal attacks, this also cements Skirk's set as a best in slot for her, which would, again, just make things a little more cohesive and clean her up a bit. It would also give her a really cool damage profile, and you'd be able to bat big Skirk damage instead of feeling like Skirk is alright. I don't think Skirk is alright, but that is something people have been complaining about because she isn't this Mahuika do the entire team damage character. Skirk is a team player, and personally, I think that's a good thing. I understand people complaining. So that is Skirk. Those are my thoughts. Check out the Skirk master sheet that we've worked on. It should be in the description and pinned in the comments. And stay tuned for what changes. I do hope they open up her burst a little bit, but if they don't, it is what it is.